Hey guys, it's X, and welcome to my first Starcraft 2 video. And the game is on pause right now, thus you don't see anything moving. I'd just like to give a bit of a foreword before I actually begin. For those of you who like Starcraft and Starcraft 2 and wanted to see Starcraft 2 on my channel, then I'm happy to bring it to you. And for those of you who don't want to see Starcraft 2, then I encourage you to go ahead and skip this video, and I will see you happily in the next Minecraft or Duke Nukem or Castlevania or whatever video you're on my channel to watch particularly. Now, is StarCraft going to become a regular thing on my channel? The answer to that is I don't know. It may or it may not. Now, I'm not happy with how the frame rate comes out if I record StarCraft. Fraps really reduces the frame rate on the game. I can play the game just fine. Playing it is no problem. I get a great frame rate while I'm playing it. But Fraps really reduces the frame rate on this game, and it's only on this game, and that's because this computer can barely handle StarCraft 2 at the graphic settings that I've got it, so adding Fraps onto that really slows things down. Now, I think it's watchable, but only barely. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to watch the game in full, and by the end of it, let me know if, leave me a comment, and let me know if the frame rate was too choppy for you to handle, or if you didn't even really notice it and you're okay with it. Alright, let's go ahead and begin the game. I'll go and unpause it now. And this is me here. I am the red Zerg starting in the 12 o'clock position, and my opponent's name is Rufio. He is the blue Terran, starting here in the 7, 8-ish, almost 9 o'clock position, and I'm sending my Overlord out here to scout. Now, some of you may be, I'm wishing him to have good luck and have fun. Now, some of you may be new to StarCraft 2, as opposed to StarCraft, and I'm going to try my best to explain some of the things that have changed in StarCraft. Overlords are no longer detectors, first of all, but they are still used to scout early on. Now you can see I'm sending it in the wrong direction to this spawn point here, and you can see the waypoints that I've given it. If you hold shift and right click when you have a unit selected, you can give it waypoints, and it's got a waypoint set right there, and another one set way over here to the next spawn point, and then finally I have him scouting off over here where my opponent actually is. So I'm actually scouting in the wrong direction. I'm scouting clockwise. That's typically the direction that an Overlord will scout for a Zerg player. My opponent is Terran, so he is building his barracks near his ramp so he can begin a wall off, so he can actually wall off his ramp, and I can't get a scout in, or I can't get any military units in to harass him with. So he's building up his wall. In the meantime, I've built up 10 drones, and after I hit 10 drones, I like to drop a spawning pool. And against Terran, I do at some point like to get a baneling nest, because this wall that he's building can be destroyed by banelings if you attack at the right time. You got to get it before he gets siege tanks out, or before he's got too many marines backed up in here, or things like that. Otherwise, your banelings aren't going to be able to work very well unless you get them the speed upgrade. Anyway, I do send a drone out to scout because I don't like to wait for the Overlord to go all around. And you can see my drone's about to get in, but the SCV puts down a supply depot at just the right moment, and I'm pretty sure that was not intentional on his part. Pretty sure it was just a timing thing, and it just blocks me off. So knowing that I'm not going to be able to get a scout in, I send my drone back because there's no reason for him to be wandering around the map and not collecting minerals for me. So my drone's coming to collect me some minerals. But now that I've also seen that he's walling off, and I know that he actually has not scouted me, I haven't seen one of his SCVs, I figure it's safe to expand. This is one of the most important things in StarCraft, is scouting. That's one of the reasons I wanted to display this game as my first one. Scouting is very important in StarCraft and StarCraft 2. So knowing that he hasn't scouted me, and knowing that he's got a wall off, I see no signs of early aggression from him. I decided to drop my natural expansion very early on, before I've even picked up any gas. And these Zerglings I had already built, I'd already had under construction, and I send them over here just to guard for a little bit, so that if I do see a scout come in, say I send them in a little bit of a forward position, I send them over here to guard my second hatchery, so that if I do see a scout, it buys me a little bit of time before his marines come in, so I can begin building some defense and army and things like that. Meanwhile, my opponent does have some marines, so just because he hasn't scouted me and just because he's built a wall doesn't mean that he's not going for early aggression. So it may be a mistake for me to have built this hatchery, but it's a risk I decided to take based on the factors of information that I've received while scouting. Now, I have produced a queen, and the queen has the ability to spawn larvae. This is a very useful ability in StarCraft 2. It takes 25 energy, and the queen does hatch with enough energy to spawn larvae right off the bat. So if you'll see that little white bar up at the top above the hatchery, and it's also down here in the information area, that's spawn larvae going to work. Now, you'll notice right now, my hatchery, I actually have no larvae out and available for me right now. But once this is done, you'll see the larvae actually pop, and they'll fall all over the place. See, here they come. See, now I've got 5 larvae. Oh, I'm sorry about that guy. You may have heard some microphone static. So now I've got several larvae out, and I've turned some of them into eggs, and they're becoming drones. And this really lets Zerg build up their military and their production, like their drones and harvesters and things like that, fairly quickly. And that's when I decide to get my gas, knowing that he hasn't shown any early aggression, and I don't really know what else he has. All I've seen, let's see, we can switch just to my view right here. There we go. All I've seen of him is his early wall-off. I don't know anything else about him, but my Overlord is finally making its way around, and I'm going to be able to get into his base with my Overlord and see what he's doing. Now, against Terran, scouting with your Overlord is a little bit risky, because it usually means that that Overlord is going to die. So you're going to have to be prepared for that and build another Overlord ahead of time. So I'm sending my Overlord in, but I have no information about him, so I don't know what I'm going to use this gas for yet. So I've just got my expansion going. My 6 Zerglings are still hanging out here, and I'm waiting to see what kind of information I can get using my Overlord. But I get a little bit distracted, and my Overlord does come in. The things that I do see, I see that he's got an orbital command, which is pretty standard for Terran, because this lets them do comsat, sort of like the old comsat stations used to. Well, exactly like the old comsat stations used to. And these mules. If you drop these mules down, they harvest alongside SCVs, and they harvest much quicker than the SCVs do. They do have a limited lifespan, but they generate a lot more minerals than a normal SCV would, and they bring it in faster. So that's kind of the Terran's answer to spawn larvae. So a Zerg can keep up by making more drones. Terran can keep up by spending energy to create mules. So it's kind of a nice little balancing mechanic. But what I've done wrong here is, as you can see, I still can't see anything in his base. Let's switch to everyone's view. He's actually built 2 starports. Now, I don't know this. I don't know what he's got, and I know that I can't break through his wall with just Zerglings, and that's all I've got is these Zerglings over here. So I get a little bit distracted in my own base, and he comes to take out my Overlord before I can drag my Overlord over here to see these 2 starports. See, I still don't see his starports. And there we go, my Overlord's dead. So let's go back to the everyone view. So he's got 2 starports going on, so he's going for an early air build, and I don't know this. I've got absolutely no anti-air. He comsats my base. He wants to know if I've got anti-air. He sees my Baneling nest, which I've dropped. As I said, I like to get Banelings so I can break down Terran walls, so that I can actually get in and see what they're doing, because scouting is important, and I have no way to scout other than that Overlord that just died. So because of my own little mistake there, I have no choice but to try and go in now, because I know he's scouted me. I know he's seen my Baneling nest, and if he's sees a Baneling nest, I'm worried that he's going to prepare for that. So I send my Zerglings in. And again, well, we can see what my opponent's doing right here. He's building his natural expansion. But we can see that I can't see that. So I wait up here on the high ground on his ramp, and I'm beginning to morph some Banelings. Now these are kamikaze units. They deal a massive amount of damage. They are self-destructing. I send in 2 Zerglings just to scout, because I don't want to reveal my whole hand. So I send in 2 Zerglings, and I notice he's got his natural expansion building. So I decided to take out the SCV to try and prevent this from building. And I see the Marines coming around, and I decided I don't want to lose those Zerglings, and I don't know how big of a force of Marines he has by this point, but I figure it's time to find out, because these Banelings can absolutely obliterate Marines, as long as these Zerglings take the hits first. So I move in with my Zerglings and Banelings, hoping to take out the army, and it turns out I don't even need the Banelings against the Marines. So I'm able to take them out with just my Zerglings. And now I need to get my Banelings inside. I need to break down this door so that my Zerglings can see what he's actually building, because I still don't know. I need to get a scout off somehow. So my Banelings go in. I'm sending them in to attack his front door, and the Marines distract them a little bit. They pull their aggro, but it's alright. So I manually move them in, and I break down that supply depot. And this is when I see this Banshee. Seeing this Banshee, and I know I have no air defenses, I move my drones into his SCV line, and then that's where I leave them. I let them do their own thing. I know these Banshees are going to take out my Zerglings. There's nothing I can do about that, but you can see that because of that scouting information and because of the timing with which I attacked, I was able to come to my base, and with my Zerglings distracting him and taking out all of his SCVs and his mules, with my Zerglings distracting, I'm able to get enough time to build an evolution chamber and a Hydralisk den. An evolution chamber will let me build spore crawlers. Spore crawlers are static defensive units that serve as detectors, and I need detectors because Banshee. Let me go and switch back to every one of you, because these Banshees, they have a cloak ability. So I have nothing that can see cloaking, and I have nothing against anti-air. But now that the evolution chamber up, I can build these spore crawlers, which you see all over my base now. I just dropped a whole bunch of drones, and I'm building a whole bunch of spore crawlers, and I'm building some over here at my natural expansion too, because once they're up, I'll be able to see cloaked units, and they attack air. But in the meantime, he brings in his cloaked Banshees. I can do nothing about it. I am hatching some Hydralisks. You can see right there, Hydralisk is morphing right now from an egg, but he's going to take out my hatchery. And my spore crawlers aren't up. He notices I'm building spore crawlers. He turns to destroy this one, and he does kill that one. But this one in the back still has sight on these guys, and it's revealing them. So now the detector That's my Hydralisks and my Queen attack the Banshees, and then he moves up into my main, hoping to pick off some more drones, but I have too many Spore Crawlers, and my Hydralisks are able to catch up, and we just decimate those Banshees. Now, if I had not sent my Zerglings in, and if I had not broken down that wall, I would not have seen those Banshees, and those 4 Banshees would have ended the game. They would have taken out all my drones, they would have taken out my expansions, and I would have been done. That would have been a good game. That would have been over right there. But knowing that he's gone for this risky strategy, it's sort of an all-in strategy on his part, knowing that he's gone for this risky strategy, and I caught him with it, I send in my very few units. I have just a few Hydralisks and a few Zerglings, and I bring them in because I know he can't possibly have much of a standing army left. So I send them in to attack. I'm sorry about the frame rate issues, guys. It's just going to have to do until I get a better computer. But anyway, I bring in my few units, and I break down his wall again, and I begin attacking with my Hydralisk. Now, the only threat to me here is that these starports are still producing more Banshees, and they can cloak as soon as they come out. And I have no, although I do have anti-air, I have no detectors in the area. There's no way for me to see cloak. So he cloaks up, and he starts taking out my units. There's nothing I can do. I have to retreat. I can't take out the rest of his base with just 2 or 3 Hydralisks, so I send them back home. Now, what I didn't take into account was that his Banshees don't start off with a whole bunch of energy, so they can't maintain that cloak for very, very long. So you can see he's only got 16 energy, 17 energy. That's not long enough to cloak for too long. And in the meantime, I've built up a sizable force of Hydralisks. I'm rebuilding my natural expansion. My drones are still mining away, and I've still got all my Spore Crawlers up. So I'm resaturating my natural expansion with some drones. Here come his Banshees. They're not able to maintain cloak. My Queen goes down, but the Hydralisks are able to walk in and just breeze through them. He gets a few hits on my hatchery. Rufio GG's after those 2 Banshees are gone. He gives me a compliment and says, "Nice Banelings," and I say thank you. That's very nice of him. Losing gracefully is a very, very respectable and important. I really think it's important on BattleNet these days. So he GG's. We end the game. The game's over. But yeah, like I was saying, Rufio was a very good sport about this. He complimented me on my Banelings, and I think being a good sport is important on BattleNet, because what Blizzard's trying to do with this, because the reason that they brought in Real ID and all that stuff is because they want to make this more of a social experience. And I would really like to see BattleNet be a much more friendly place. I would like to see it be a place where people can go up against each other and not have hard feelings because of a Zergling rush or something like that. Not that I am the type to do Zergling rushes. Anyway, yeah, I really think it's important that people are able to get along and play nice together, because it really just improves the game experience as a whole. All right, well, let me know what you guys let me know some comments. Let me know what you guys thought. Let me know what you guys thought about the frame rate, about the game in general, and thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.